Before we start through the gears, we want the audience to know our thoughts and prayers go out to those affected by Hurricane Helene. Please consider donating to Operation Airdrop as they collect and fly out supplies to those affected. A list of needs, a link to donate, and even volunteer opportunities can be found at operationairdrop.com. That's operationairdrop.com as the Front Stretch family comes together to help those in need. Your donation today can help save those tomorrow. Welcome in, race fans, to this edition of Through the Gears presented by Front Stretch. I'm your host, Tino Pattigno, and I can't wait to get back into this week's NASCAR racing action, this week's NASCAR betting action, and most of all, this week's NASCAR road course action as we head to the Roval. And this is going to be such a great race in store, as it's going to be an elimination race. Yes, that's right, the final race in the round of 12 of the NASCAR playoffs. How can we bet on it? What prop plays do I like? What type of analysis and preparation am I taking into this weekend's race? Well, I got all that in store for you and more, so let's go through the gears. Before we get into everything pertaining to the Charlotte Roval this weekend, we have to take a look back at Talladega Superspeedway and the race that was last weekend. To me, a fantastic photo finish, one in which it was the third closest finish this season, which was also the third closest finish in NASCAR history. What a season it's been. It's been awesome to see these photo finishes. It's been awesome to see these races. That is a culmination until a great result like that. 3 to 4 wide pack racing throughout stage 2 and stage 3. Yes, we did have the biggest one ever, the biggest wreck in NASCAR history, including 28 cars involved in that one. That was unfortunate to see, but overall, I thought it was a great race. From a betting standpoint, we did have our eye on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for a top 10 finish, but he did end up getting the entire win, going out and winning it all. He was 40-1 on some books that he opened up at earlier last weekend, and he got it done. And I'm happy for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I'm a fan of his, good driver in terms of able to become clutch in these moments on super speedways. I was there when he won the Daytona 500 in 2023, and seeing him get back to victory lane was great. Although he did beat our pick to win in William Byron, as Byron finished in third by like 0.1 second or something like that. Brad Keselowski finished in second as well there. To me, I think a lot of our picks were running strong. Ryan Blaney was one of them. Chase Elliott was up there in the front. William Byron, like we mentioned, finished third. And we had a good scope in terms of the playoff drivers who were in contention to win this race. I think the biggest thing that came down to it was the fact that my biggest stat heading into that race was 9 out of the last 10 races at Talladega were won by a playoff driver. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr. goes and upsets, steals the show, as he is not a playoff driver there, and he gets the win. So the stat falls short after I do all the research and preparation for that one, but we will make sure that doesn't happen again as we lock and load for this weekend at the Roval. As we prepare for the Roval this weekend and turning left and right at this road course, one thing that's important to note, as it is an elimination race, some drivers above the cut line will be racing for points. Below the cut line, same type of deal. There is one driver locked in. That's William Byron. He's already advanced to the next round, the round of 8, because of how many points he's accumulated all throughout these NASCAR playoffs, and specifically this round thus far. Christopher Bell's in a great position, being plus 57 to the good. So essentially, I believe he locks himself in with a 26th place finish overall. That doesn't include stage points or anything like that he can get throughout the race on Sunday. William Byron and Christopher Bell locked in. That's important to note when we take a look at this playoff picture. For this track specifically, we've seen it been ran 5 times in the last 5 years, so started in 2018. And this has been important because in this round, the round of 12, it's been an elimination race, but not only that, 4 out of the last 5 races at this track have been won by playoff drivers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, we thought the same type of deal with Talladega last week. Playoff drivers will step up, but that may not have been the case throughout this round of 12 in this NASCAR playoffs this season. Ross Chastain wins Kansas. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wins Talladega. If a non-playoff driver wins the Charlotte Roval, they will then have swept the entire round of this NASCAR playoffs. And hey, that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, you have 12 drivers in a field of 36 to 38 each Sunday racing for the win. Now, yeah, I get it. Only, let's say, 20 to 25 guys are capable of winning on a given week based off of their equipment they're running in and the strength and just the talent of the drivers and the skill level there. But to me, that's something I have my eye on, especially going to a road course in which we'll see Shane Van Gisbergen, AJ Allmendinger, drivers that get a little bit elevated when we look in terms of their skill set and their talent and their ability to win the race. It gets heightened a little bit because of how good they are on road courses. So I'm going to highlight those drivers that are going to be great on road courses and have been great on the Roval in the past before. SVG is one of them. I'll mention right now. He hasn't raced on the Roval. So looking at SVG compared to AJ Allmendinger, who won this race last year, AJ did. Maybe I'd choose AJ over SVG because of his further experience there. But at the same time, experience hasn't slowed down SVG at all, or lack thereof. He finished second at Watkins Glen in his first race there a couple weeks ago there in the last round of the NASCAR playoffs. So to me, I think that's important to note in this one. The drivers that are not in the playoffs have a better shot of winning this race, primarily because of points. The two drivers that are essentially, William Byron's locked in. I mentioned him. William Byron is locked into the next round. Christopher Bell is essentially in the same position, locked into the next round at plus 57. You also see Kyle Larson in third at plus 52 points to the good there. I think those three drivers in William Byron, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson have the best opportunity to be more aggressive than the rest of the field in terms of playoff drivers to go out and win this race because they don't have to worry about points necessarily or worry about flipping the stages or any other strategies to get the most stage points that they possibly can, and they can go out and just run their race and potentially go out and just win this race because of those facts. I think that's going to be important to note in this one. Another thing that's going to be key in this one is going to be the drivers around the playoff bubble. I'm looking at Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, and Joey Logano specifically here in this instance. Chase Elliott's plus 13 to the good, in 8th place, the final playoff spot heading into the round of 8. And Joey Logano is minus 13. He would be the first driver eliminated, as it would be Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe, who are currently below the playoff cut line to advance to the next round. Tyler Reddick, to me, and Chase Elliott are two of the best road course drivers in the field, especially at this track specifically. They've ran well here in the past. Chase Elliott's won a race here. Joey Logano's been strong at this track. He finished 5th in this race last year. But to me, I think Joey Logano's best shot at advancing to the next round is going to be racing for points, trying to flip the stages, trying to do alternate strategies in order to get the best stage result, to accumulate the best and most stage points out of the rest of the playoff field. We've seen him do that in the past where he went out, flipped a stage, won a stage because of that, and was able to, and when I say flip a stage, you know, that means doing the opposite strategy that the other drivers are doing, whether it's if people are coming down pit road to get fresh tires and fuel in order to have a long run in the stage 2, he would stay out, win the stage because of that, or vice versa. So to me, I think that's going to be important to note. I think whatever you see an opportunity for stage points and you're below the playoff cut line like Joey Logano is, you're going to want to do everything you can to get the most in order to be in stage 3, to analyze where you have the best shot of winning this race. Is it going to be by points or by going and getting the win? If that's the case, then they'd have to adjust from there. But I don't think he's going to have enough speed when we look at the rest of the drivers in this field. SVG, like I mentioned, AJ Allmendinger, even Chris Buescher has been a force to be reckoned with on road courses all throughout his career, but especially after winning earlier in the playoffs at Watkins Glen. So to me, I think that's going to be something to note from the 22 car. He's going to be playing for points, racing for points. Same thing with Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott in this one. I think those three drivers, especially with Elliott and Reddick, we'll take a look at their odds in a second here in the next segment. But to me, that's something where those two drivers would be ones I'd want to jump on. I'd want to bet on them heavily to win this race. But we need to be aware of who's racing for points and who is potentially just going out and trying to get a win in this one. The drivers aren't the only thing we need to be prepared for and be aware of heading into the Roval for this weekend, as it's newly reconfigured, at least some parts on the track. Let's talk about it. First up, we're going to see an extended straightaway heading into turn 6. If you want a visual of this as well, you can just look up the Charlotte Roval reconfigurations. I also have a tweet from NASCAR highlighting and a good graphic that I'm reading off of right now or looking at as well in the article version of Through the Gears on frontstretch.com. So go check that out if you want a visual of it. But as I'm going to continue to break this down, we see an extended straightaway into turn 6. So the driver's going to be bringing a little bit more speed as they head down into turn 7. And this is where things are going to get crazy because it is a very heavy braking zone, a hairpin type of turn as they go around into the oval portion of the racetrack. To me, I love the Roval. I think this is an awesome experience of a road course. I love the fact that the course incorporates the Charlotte Motor Speedway itself, obviously, with that big oval heading back into the road course portions of the track. But to me, this is going to be super interesting to see how turn 7 unfolds because I think we will see some great, braking zone action there in terms of passes and passing opportunities, but at the same time, with the new extended straightaway from turn 6 into turn 7, and that being such a sharp turn and angle, there could be another opportunity for a lot of cars to get into trouble from that specific area as well. So that's something I want to keep in mind. There is also a sharper apex in the final chicane that we need to worry about. And two drivers that stand out to me the most when I break down the new reconfiguration of parts of the Roval, well, that's AJ Allmendinger and Shane Van Gisbergen. They are two of the best world-class road course aces in the field for this one this weekend. And when it comes to high-intensity braking zones, there's no one that's going to outbrake you better and more than SVG. And I think AJ, who has great experience, wins a bunch of Xfinity races at this track. Those two drivers will benefit the most from those changes. Let's get into a little bit of an odds breakdown before I give you my picks to win this race outright from the Charlotte Roval. First up, SVG is your outright leader in terms of winning this race at plus 550 on FanDuel specifically. He opened the weekend at plus 700, so a lot of people are thinking SVG in this one, and for good reason, right? Anytime he's raced in the Cup Series, he's shown that inexperience at certain tracks does not matter to him. He'll go out and have a strong run, lead laps, and potentially win the race. Kyle Larson's next up at plus 850, and the first person that was second in line originally from what I saw when the odds opened up and the sports books gave us some values this weekend, it was AJ Allmendinger. He's now in third at plus 1,000. Love the value there for AJ Allmendinger. I think this is going to be a track where he's going to want to go out and win. And keep in mind, too, he's racing in the 16 car this weekend for Call League, as SVG is racing in the 13 car. Throughout the past times this season, it seems like the 16 has a little bit of an advantage over the 13 car that is also prepared by the same teams and have been driven by both drivers in SVG and AJ Allmendinger so far this season. So Allmendinger in the 16, SVG in the 13. Something to keep in mind. I don't think it'll matter too much, but we have seen a more speed coming from the 16 car sometimes this season. So William Byron's next up at plus 1,100 there on DraftKings. I like the value there for Willie B, especially how I mentioned he's going to be aggressive in this one. Tyler Reddick plus 1,000, and Christopher Bell, his Toyota teammate, he drives for JGR, and plus 1,600 there for Bell. Christopher Bell, each and every week, it seems like he has the best closing line value. We were on him heavy for Kansas. Ultimately, didn't work out, but he went out and won the pole. This is another instance where I can see Christopher Bell having a strong run at this track. I'd like him to win the race outright if we're going to be betting on him there, but I think just with the closing line value alone, if there's a cash out option for you guys, depending on the sportsbook you use, 16-1 early in the week could be cut down to 8-1, 7-1 if he goes out and has a strong qualifying run and is fast in practice as well. So that's a driver that I'm seeing now early and having my eye on him in this one. Chase Elliott, 15-1. We talked about him and Reddick being in the same sort of racing for points because of how good they are at this track. I don't expect them to go out and try to win this race where they are at right now in the current playoff standings. Ty Gibbs is a driver. Ty Gibbs is a driver to keep your eye on for this one. 14-1 to win this race on FanDuel. That's the best odds he has right now. I'd like a little bit more for a driver going for his first win, but he's been strong on all the road courses so far this season. Hasn't been able to get leading laps and then up towards the front in terms of being able to dictate a race and being able to be in position to win it at the end. But hey, the races are rounding down, 5 to go before the championship ends and the season wraps up here. I think Ty Gibbs wants to get a win now, and if it's going to happen, I think this is his best shot to do so. Same can be said for Michael McDowell, 18-1, and McDowell's a great road course driver, but at this track, I think his best finish is 12th. So to me, that's not really something I'd be willing to bet on. I know the price may seem strong, but he's a driver that's going to show out in qualifying, and I think only go backwards after that. Chris Buescher, though, is the opposite. At Watkins Glen, when he won that race, he started in 24th. Keep your eye on Chris Buescher and keep your eye on Ross Chastain. 22-1 for Chastain. He's already upset once this playoffs winning at Kansas. That was a huge deal for him to continue to get back to victory lane as he was struggling to find it so far this season. He gets the win there. 22-1 for Ross. I think that's fair value. I expect AJ and SVG and those other Chevys to run stronger than him. But hey, he surprised us once before at Kansas. He could do it again. He's a strong road course racer. We saw him have a lot of speed at Watkins Glen as well, but at the end, he did get just beat or outperformed by Chris Buescher and SVG there in the late going. Kyle Busch at 22-1. This could be another opportunity for him to have a strong run. I'll keep my eye on him there. I think I'd want to see how they do after practice and after qualifying to really see what the speed they unload with, because it's going to be hard. I know when that team qualifies in the back of the pack, it's hard for them to move forward and get further positions compared to other drivers who are able, or not able to do it, but are able to do it more consistently based on the speed that the cars have. Alex Bowman is a driver that you guys need to be locked in about in this one. I'm going to be talking about him more in the next couple of segments here, but 25-1 to win this race outright is great value for the 48 car. He's the best average finish out of all active drivers on this track with a 6.4. That's better than Tyler Reddick, who's in second, better than Chase Elliott in third, and better than Joey Logano in fourth. All those three drivers I talked about who need points in this one. Alex Bowman right now, when we look at the current playoff standings, is in 5th place, plus 26 to the good. When we talk about drivers wanting to race for points compared to others who want to and are able to race for the win and be more aggressive, I think Alex Bowman is right in that sweet spot where he's just good at this racetrack and he can just go out and run his race, and that may lead to a potential win. If not, should be a top 10 finish in this one. So 25-1 to win this race, I like that value. MTJ is 28-1, Joey Logano 45-1, Ryan Blaney 50-1, Austin Cindric's gonna need a win to advance. It's looking like at 40-1, Denny Hamlin 50-1, Briscoe same deal there in terms of him being below the playoff cut line at 60-1 to win this one. That's a little bit of an odds breakdown for you there, and where the current prices are set with drivers that have value earlier in the week. Closing line value, especially on Christopher Bell, 16-1. William Byron, another one at 11-1 right now, and AJ Allmendinger 10-1. I believe Allmendinger too, he's a driver we can see go out and win the poll, or at least start top 3 to top 5, in which that number and that price will definitely go down significantly after a lot of people notice that and see that after practice and qualifying, which is happening on Saturday. SVG at plus 550. I would wait on him. I don't think even if he goes out and wins the poll, we will see much of a decrease in that price where it is right now. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. Time to find out who I'm betting on to win this race outright. And to start things off hot, it's going to have to be the favorites in this one. I need to go back to victory lane. I need to win this race. We need to make some profit here, and we're going to do so in a strategic way. And that's by picking the favorites in this one to win this race. At least two of them right now, and that's SVG at plus 550 and AJ Allmendinger at plus 1,000. My point is with these guys, if you can get AJ Allmendinger right now for that price, I will then also take SVG, because I don't think AJ Allmendinger will be at 10-1 much longer. And even if he is, I do believe those two drivers have the best shot out of any in the field to go out and win this race. I know the storylines of non-playoff drivers winning so far in this round particularly, and I think they can go out and sweep the entire round of 12 for non-playoff drivers winning in the NASCAR playoffs. That's the beauty of it, right? That's just how it has been so far in these NASCAR playoffs, with non-playoff drivers winning and playoff drivers racing for points in this one. So to me, SVG, AJ Allmendinger, those are the first two drivers on my card, and especially with them being in the position that they are in the equipment they are in, same type of cars, same type of setups, I think they're going to be fast in this one. Next up it's going to be William Byron at 11-1 to win this one. I was on him last weekend. He was strong. I saw him at Kansas. He was fast there too. They really brought the speed in this round, and that's something that I'm really liking from that team. We haven't seen William Byron up front leading laps in contention to win races that often the second half of the season. First half, he goes out and gets 3 wins. Awesome. Willie B's back. Since then, a decline in terms of speed. Well, this round, they're back. And especially showcasing the different amounts of speed they've had in terms of high speed on a super speedway, on a intermediate style track, and now we go to a road course. That leads me to believe that we'll see good raw speed when they unload from that car. 11-1 right now. That could be another one. Like I said, after practice and qualifying, that value goes down. So this, to me, with SVG and AJ Allmendinger, with them being, some of the favorites to win this race outright, it's the value we're getting them at, which can lead me to believe we will profit having both those drivers on our card. SVG, AJ Allmendinger, William Byron. You gotta know. You gotta know who I'm going next. And that's Christopher Bell. 16-1? 16-1 for C. Bell. That's on Bet Rivers. 11-1 on BetMGM, one of the more known sports books. Either way you can cut it. That's value for the 20 car. He's won this race before. He's led laps in the last 3 races at this track. That's huge when we go here to this one because of the fact that he is such a high place above the playoff cut line with plus 57 points to the good. I think he's a driver that's going to go out, be aggressive, and get a clutch victory to have a lot of momentum going into the next round of 8. Those are my top 4 I'm betting on to win this race outright. But if I had to pick 2 more with good value to keep your eye on, or if you want to throw them in for lesser units because of their price being so high right now, that's something I would do. And that's Chris Buescher at 18-1, because he's also a Ford too. Throw a Ford into the mix. I think they have a decent shot at winning this one. But next up, Alex Bowman, 25-1. He has the best average finish out of all active drivers on this track. Like I mentioned before, he's going to go out and have a strong run in this one. I don't know if he can go out and win it, but at 25-1, I'm definitely going to put a couple units on that one because the risk is definitely worth the reward with Alex Bowman being in Hendrick Motorsports equipment. Hendrick Motorsports have won 4 out of the last 5 road course races this season, including the Chicago Street Race, which Alex Bowman won at that time as well. So 25-1 for Alex Bowman in the 48 car. I love that value there. I think if you choose him or Buescher with the 18-1 number and you want to go with 3 or 4 of the other drivers I mentioned, you can still profit by betting on all those guys to win this race outright. For some prop bets, right now I'm in the top 10 market, which I like the best in terms of value. Alex Bowman. I mean, we just talked about him there at the end of the outright winner segment, and that was because he showed value to win the race outright. Well, if I'm thinking he's capable of doing that or potentially getting in the mix there at the end, well, I'm going to like him for a top 10 finish. And the reason is he has the best average finish out of all active drivers. I keep saying it, but I want that to sink in because a 6.4 average finish and him to be plus 100 for a top 10, plus money for a top 10 when this driver is great at this racetrack and has consistently been better and just been consistently finishing inside the top 10. Sign me up for that. Plus 100 for Alex Bowman, top 10. I love that prop play. Joey Logano is another driver with him being below the cut line. I think it's going to be important for him to go and get a top 10 run in this one. He's currently minus 120 on DraftKings specifically. I mentioned them too because Alex Bowman was originally minus 100. He's now plus 100. And Joey Logano was originally plus 120. He's now minus 120. So depending on which sportsbook you use or look at, those drivers could be above, plus money range or below it. I would take anything plus money for Joey Logano top 10 in this one. He finished 5th in this race last year. Even if he does flip the stages and tries to win stage 1 and stage 2, that will put him in a deficit in stage 3 and trying to get back up through the field. But I think he's going to be able to do it, or at least try to do whatever it takes. Maybe it's a 2-tire stop, a no-tire stop in terms of pit stops at the end of the race just to try to win this race if he is below the playoff cut line. With him being a former champion and having a great crew chief on top of the box, I know they'll do whatever it takes. I expect him to finish inside the top 10 as well. Austin Dillon is one for more value, plus 600 to get a top 10. Austin Dillon's been consistently better at this racetrack. A little bit surprising as road courses is not his specialty in this one, but we've seen it happening so far. So I would take Austin Dillon at that price at plus 600 to get a top 10 here. AJ Allmendinger, we talked about him a lot, plus 105 for a top 5. That's a good way to sort of be able to profit even if he doesn't get a win in this one. Same thing with Ty Gibbs at plus 150. Ty Gibbs hasn't done enough for me to bet on him outright to win this race, but I do like him to get a top 5 in this one. And if he is in the position at the end, then at least we sort of get a driver inside the top 5 that we can make money on that we didn't bet to win this race outright. And finally, the last prop I like in this one is going to be Chevy at minus 165, race winning manufacturer. I know that's a big minus number there, but think about the drivers that come with Chevy: SVG, AJ Allmendinger, Byron, Larson, Chase Elliott. We got Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, Suarez, and Bowman, and more. I think that is more than enough to convince me to bet on Chevy in this one. Minus 165 for Chevy to win. Our biggest threats there are drivers like Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher, maybe Ty Gibbs, like I mentioned, but everyone else to me really, I don't think has a shot to knock out all of those Chevy drivers from winning this race unless it is some chaos at the end of the Roval. Now to my favorite plays, it's going to have to be the ones that give us the best value in this one. Closing line value for Christopher Bell and AJ Allmendinger. AJ at 10-1 to win the race outright, and Christopher Bell 16-1 to win the race outright. Two of my favorite plays from a winning standpoint there. And then I got to go with Alex Bowman, plus money for a top 10. I love that there from DraftKings specifically at plus 100 for Alex Bowman to get a top 10 finish. That would round out all my favorite plays because of the drivers. And I talked about them a lot throughout the show because of the value it presents us with in this one. I feel like we have to capitalize early in the week now. So once this episode comes out, be sure to bet on those guys. That'll do it for this edition of Through the Gears. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Let me know who you think are going to win the race in the comments down below. Let me know if you have any NASCAR betting questions, need any analysis or insight. Be sure to comment down below or hit me up on social media at Tino, Pattigno. I love interacting with you guys and the NASCAR betting community, so I'm always willing and able to answer any questions you may have or just talk about the weekend and the racing action going on. Be sure to stick around for the Stock Car Scoop, which comes out after every race on every Sunday or whenever the races are, in terms of the guys getting you locked and loaded for the week ahead and recapping everything that unfolded in this NASCAR playoff racing action from the Charlotte Roval. It's going to be such a special race. I'm super excited to turn left and right in this one. Stay safe out there. Best of luck, and I'll see you guys next week as we go through the gears. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those affected by Hurricane Helene. Please consider donating to Operation Airdrop as they collect and fly out supplies to those affected. A list of needs, a link to donate, and even volunteer opportunities can be found at OperationAirdrop.com. That's OperationAirdrop.com as the Front Stretch family comes together to help those in need. Your donation today can help save those tomorrow.